Hey guys, my name is Dominic and today I'm going to be talking about my first game jam. And the game jam is Brackeys Game Jam 2020.2. So the jam started 4 a.m. for me and I was planning on getting up but then decided not to because I am lazy. So I got up and I looked at the game jam page and I saw that the theme was rewind. So I had a few days to kind of think about a theme, mainly just two, because I was not home. So I lost like 3 days of working on this game jam. So after I think 2 days of thinking, I finally sat down on my desk and I kind of had an idea already of what I wanted to do. And that idea was have a stick man that runs forward and you try to speed run a level, and whenever the timer runs out, you get rewinded back to the beginning and you have to start over, but the timer keeps going on. So basically you have to try to complete the level in as little tries as you can, and yeah, just kind of keep your time as low as possible. So the first day I looked up Brackeys Game Jam on how to do basic 2D movement, and then I realized that, oh, I don't even have a sprite that I can put on the character. So then I made this beautiful creation of a character, player, whatever you feel like calling him, because he's an awesome and he's definitely going to stay as the main character. So I did finish Brackeys tutorial, which I have watched before, so I already knew kind of some of the stuff. So I finished that and I got the player movement working, so that was all nice. And then I proceeded to look up on how to rewind objects, and of course Brackeys had a tutorial. So I watched his very helpful tutorial and I got the rewind feature working, and then proceeded to create a background which turned out really bad, so I just ended up going to Kenny's assets as usual and just yoinking one of his backgrounds, and I do like it quite a bit. So on Wednesday I made it very nice and dark, and then I also made some slopes that obviously are slopes, and I made slopes for the ceiling so then it looks all nice and pretty. And then I also decided to start working on the health system. So basically my idea of how the health system could work is I could have certain game objects, in this case spikes, and have a tag on the spikes called spikes, and then I could have in a code just an if statement asking is if the collision was with the tag spikes, then take X amount of damage. And in this case spikes killed you immediately, so that means immediately you're dead. So I made some spikes, and then I also made a cannon which I thought was really cool that rotates and follows the player and shoots missiles, which I know is kind of weird, but missiles are cool. So I threw some missiles in there with the cannon, and the cannon shoots missiles at you. And how I use that and how I made the cannon rotate towards you, for those of you newbies, even though I'm technically probably still a noob, I used A-Star, which is an AI program, and in that, whenever you use it, you can make it follow something, and in this case I made it follow the player, and that makes it rotate towards the player. But instead of making it move, you can adjust the speed. I changed the speed to such a low value that it will literally take like 6 years for the cannon to actually move. So that's how I got that to rotate towards the player. And then I just threw a script on the cannon that spawns missiles every once in a while, and the missiles just go straight, and if the missiles hit you, then you take 50 damage. But if you walk on the cannons, nothing happened. And yeah, that's what I did that day, and I was pretty happy with the progress, and I still am pretty happy with that progress. But I am far from done, and it's Wednesday, and I have to get this up by Friday night. So yeah. So on Thursday I started to work on sound design, and I was having a weird issue with the cannon where when I stood at the start, when it would shoot, I could still hear it. So I was trying to figure out how to make it to where you couldn't hear it whenever it was, well, so far away, and when it got closer obviously it got louder. And I could not figure it out. So I had the genius idea of, well, instead of messing with the sound system that I already have, why not just make a new one where whenever the cannon shoots, it spawns a game object with an audio source on it, and the audio source, ta-da, is the cannon shoot sound. So the next thing I did was make a lantern. So I jumped in GIMP and looked up lantern on the Googles and found a good reference picture, so I took the reference right here and, well, used it as a reference, and I ended up making a lantern, so yay. Then I later in the day made it to where whenever missile hits the lantern, it turns the lantern on, and then spoiler alert, later I made it to where whenever you hit the lantern, you gain 50 health, I believe. So the last thing I wanted to do that night was set up the player animation. So I jumped in GIMP again and designed a stick command, so that only took a few minutes, so that was cool. And then I decided, hey, I might look up a tutorial on how to do rigging in Unity, because I think that'll be easier for this because this isn't pixel art. So it would be a lot harder to do sprite sheet animation. Which for you guys that don't know, that's basically just taking several images and each image just having a small difference. So then whenever you play them in a row at like say 5 FPS, so frames per second, it looks like say for instance a player moving. So that would be pretty hard to do with this because, well, it would have to be like 60 frames for 1 second, and there's probably going to be a couple seconds of animation. So I figured, hey, I'm going to try to do rigging. So I look up how to do rigging in Unity, and it turns out Brackeys had a tutorial. So I started watching that, and I could not get it to work. For some weird reason, I could only get the body to get the weights on it. So I ended up scrapping that and then deciding that I'm just gonna have to do sprite sheet animation. So I spent about 10 minutes working on sprite sheet animation, got like 3 frames, and then realized this is super stupid. So I went back to the tutorial and worked on it more. I ended up looking up a tutorial from Saiku, and I eventually, after like 2 hours, finally got it to work. The animation looked horrible, but I got rigging to work, so that was a good thing. Okay, so now it's Friday, and I have just a crap ton of work to do. So first thing I do was I wanted to immediately remake the player running animation because it was just completely abysmal. So I remade it, and I'm actually quite happy with it now, especially for my first animation with rigging or just not pixel art animation. So I'm pretty happy with that. So the next thing I did was I wanted to go ahead and get the run sound. So then basically what I wanted the sound to be was whenever the player takes a step and his foot hits the ground, it makes like a dripping water sound that has a lot of reverb. So what I did was I took the exact same system as I used with the cannons and applied it there. So Unity has a very handy system in the animations where you can trigger a function. So I made a function that spawns the object, so I could, at the same frame as the foot touching the ground, trigger that and it would play the sound at the perfect time. So that worked pretty good and I was really happy with that. So the next thing I did was make a sound for the lantern, which was basically just a burning fire sound. And then I also completely remade the sound for the cannon shooting because frankly, it kind of sounded like a laser being shot. And I don't think a cannon goes pew whenever it shoots a missile. So yeah, I remade that into like a more cannon-y sound. Then I made a very simple main menu with just a start and quit option, and I also made it to where you can see your health. And the next thing I did was I made a damage indicator, which had some quite interesting results. Then the next thing I did was I hooked up the high score system, and how the high score system works is probably change to your lowest score, by the way. What is that the least amount of time you complete the level in is your high score, although I should probably rename that to your lowest score because high score doesn't quite make sense, although I guess let me know in the comments if you have a better idea. So everything was going fine and dandy. I started working on level design. I finished level design. I added spikes, like spikes that come down from the ceiling, which I thought was pretty cool. I added a tutorial level, so there was kind of a tutorial level. And then I started building the game. I built it to Windows 32-bit and 64-bit. I built it to Mac OS, and then I also built it to Linux 64-bit. Can't do 32-bit, sorry guys. And then I started this IO page. I finished this IO page, the logo for the game. I uploaded the builds, and I decided, hey, I may launch the game just to make sure there's nothing else. I'm pretty sure there's not, and I hope there's not, because then I'd have to rebuild the game and re-upload it. And so I launch it, and I realize that no matter what, the high score is always 0. So I had to go and fix that bug, which took like 2 hours. And I finally fixed it by adding this tiny eensy-weensy if statement in the start function, which solved all the issues. And basically what it does is just set the high score to 50,000, I believe it was, if the high score is equal to 0 by default. So yeah, so basically that will only do that once, unless somehow you complete the level in 0 seconds, then your high score will be reset, which I don't think is going to happen. So I did that, and then I uploaded the game, and I was done. I finished my first game jam, which was a very interesting feeling, especially since it was 3 in the morning, and that was an hour before the jam was over. So that was actually quite fun experience, and I got some reviews. I got some helpful feedback, mainly, which I guess is a good thing. Mainly people just complained about, well, I wouldn't say complain, I would say they criticized, which I thought was quite worth it, the rewind speed, and that was too slow. So whenever I can, I'm gonna update it after the judging is over to 3 times faster, which makes a big difference. So I think I solved that issue. And I'm also going to add some more levels. I'm basically going to finish the game because I actually quite liked it. It was a pretty fun experience. I would 100% do this game jam again. No doubt about it. It was a ton of fun, especially since I only had 3 days to work on the game. So I would definitely be excited to work on it for a full week. So yeah, I enjoyed this quite a bit. So I guess that's it for this video. If you guys liked it, leave a like, subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Go check out Brackeys' channel, he's got some great tutorials, and thank you to Brackeys for putting this whole jam together. It was awesome being a part of it, and I guess see you guys in the next video. So yeah, bye!